Hello, my grots and gits. Now, in my constant quest to help everyone become the best Warhammer 40,000 player possible, I tend to come across some people who maybe they show up in the Discord or I play you in one of the leagues, and I see people trying to implement some of these concepts and they do it just a little bit wrong. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to clarify exactly how you play 40k. And these are some of the really biggest concepts that you can possibly get to win the game. So this is critical to your success. So make sure you tune in, you pay attention, you smash the like button, and you, enjoy the video. Cheers, let's get into it. All right, so what are the main concepts of how you play the 40k? Well, in the context of this video, we're going to come up with 3 different concepts. All right, we have trading, hiding, and threat overload. Each one of these is critical to your success in winning a game. So we're going to go through all the details of each one and how they will apply to your individual games. As you take note of this video, what you might notice is that I'm going to give you like an example of how to apply it, and you're going to come up with lots of different examples in your own brain of how you could apply it to your own individual games. And this is just very, very true. So it's impossible for me to go through every single scenario that could ever come up in this game because it's so complex. So what I want you to do is take these concepts and apply them to your individual matches and your individual armies, because some armies will enjoy trading, some armies will enjoy hiding, and some armies will enjoy the threat overload concepts of how to play 40k. So let's just jump into it. What are these concepts and how do we actually implement them? All right, so let's look at trading. Now, trading is probably the most common concept in 40k that you're going to see. You're going to see that your army is built out of 2,000 points and you're playing against your opponent who has 2,000 points. Well, you want to say, okay, well, if I want to kill 100 points of his army, then it's going to cost me 100 points of my army. Now, I generally think that is a bad strategy for playing Warhammer 40,000. Instead, perhaps you might want to go, how can I trade 80 points of my army to kill 100 points of his army? Because then you're trading less of yours for more of your opponent's army. Now, that is a better concept. I still don't necessarily like it. However, this is a very, very common way of people thinking. They're saying, oh, if you have a big squad of battle sisters that it runs you 100 points and I can, shoot in a squad of my scouts and I can kill your battle sisters, well, you're going to kill my scouts on the swing back, but I traded 65 points for 100 points of your army. Interesting. Okay, and this is a way that a lot of people like to think about the game. And it's not necessarily a bad way, it's just not the way I prefer to think about the game. Now, sometimes in my games, I will actually trade units, but I rarely trade units off of kill points. I trade units off of enabling my army. So if you look at this picture that I've got here, I have 2 units of scouts, and I advance them up. And one is blocking a battle wagon and a truck. And then the other one is going to be blocking Mozrog and a squig boss. Now, the cool thing here is that both of these units cost me 65 points. And I'm not going to shoot. I might shoot like shotguns, but that doesn't matter. And I'm not going to be charging you, that's for certain. Because if I charge you, what's going to end up happening is you're going to kill me. And even if you don't kill me, well, the battle wagon, for example, will be able to fall back over my scouts. So instead, I'm going to end my movement 1.1 inches away. So now in your turn, being the orc player, you will not be able to fall back over my models, nor will you be able to move anywhere. Now, the scouts, both of these squads are 100% going to die. But what I'm not doing is I'm not necessarily trading, say, a 65-point scout unit to kill a 100-point unit of your army. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm trading 65 and 65, so what is that, 130 points of my army, to ensure that over 1,000 points of your army does not get to move in turn 1. Now, this is critical because it means that you're not going to be able to set yourself up to play the game in turn 2 the way that you want to, which can basically, a lot of times, just auto-win a matchup. So I will trade units occasionally, but when I trade units, it's for things like this. I'm rarely ever going to be actively trading. Say, I'm not going to send in a 300-point unit of my death blob to kill your death blob so that then you can kill my death blob. It's just not a very, very good strategy. Now, some armies actively do like to trade unit for unit. These are going to be armies such as, well, orcs that have cheaper, very high punching units. They can be very comfortable sending out a unit of Storm Boys to, say, pick up a 5-man of my Jump Assault Intercessors. And they can continue doing that because they're going to win that trade game because they've got a lot more MSU than, say, like the Space Marines might have. And their MSU tends to hit a little bit harder than my MSU does. So they can actually win that trading point for point game. When I'm playing, say, with my Blood Angels, I can't win that game. Instead, this is probably the only type of trade that I would actually actively make. And I would consider this a trade. And this is a trade that I'm willing to make. So I'm willing to make it so that you don't get to play the game, but I'm not necessarily willing to, say, trade a 65-point unit for a 65-point unit. However, like we just said, some other armies love trading. Drukhari, for example, they've got tons of units. They have no problem trading 1-for-1. Or your orcs, they'll trade 1-for-1. But if you're playing Custodes, if you're playing Space Marines, if you're playing some of these more elite armies, you cannot trade 1-for-1. All right, cool. So let's look at the next concept of 40k. And this is called hiding. This is what I refer to as the one fell swoop option. So hiding is the idea of you will kill nothing of my army. You're not going to touch me. You're not going to do anything. I am going to be 100% safe in turn 1, maybe even in turn 2. I can lose absolutely nothing. And this is a strategy that not every army needs to apply to, but I certainly apply it to, say, my Blood Angels. I also highly recommend it for other elite armies. Say if you're playing with your Custodes or if you're playing with Grey Knights or whatever, you don't want to lose units early. So you want to be 100% secure early on in the game. So now what we do here is I don't trade. Now, I might have actually traded just the scout unit, but that is written into my list to trade that one scout unit, and that's going to stop you from moving in turn 1. So now what I've done is, if you look at my position here, I've got like some Vanguard vets that are hidden in that little corner. I've got a big unit of Death Company, and what you can't see that is a little bit off screen is I've got another big unit of Jump Assault Intercessors. Now, my Orc opponent has a battle wagon full of boys or knobs or something. There's boys in front of the flash kits, and there's flash kits ready to shoot. But he can't shoot me this turn because he cannot see me. He also can't really charge me because my Van Vets are going to be an inch away from the wall, so the battle wagon can't charge through it. All right. Now, what I will do very, very often in this one fell swoop option is I won't shoot one unit out. Instead, I'm going to charge my entire army in one turn. So inevitably, what is going to happen is I am going to be picking up 1,000 to 1,200 points of your army in one go. When I do that, I win the game. Now, yes, occasionally I can just whiff and that can bite me in the butt, but that's Warhammer. Sometimes dice are dicks. Sometimes you will whiff. But the way that I play this game is my scouts might go out. I might sacrifice the scouts turn 1 to mean that you can't move, but it allows me to get perfect position and be perfectly safe. So then when you do have to move out so you can score some points, then I get to charge my entire army and I will eliminate well over half of your army in one fell swoop, meaning that you're not going to have the clapback that you need to get back into the game. So this is what I call the hiding strategy, not necessarily the trading strategy. I'm not going to send one unit out to kill one of your units. I'm not going to send one thing out. The only things I do in this scenario is I might use my scouts to move block you turn 1. After that, the only time I'm going to engage is when I can put my entire army into you all at once. So I lose nothing until I'm prepared to. And this is what I call the hiding or the one fell swoop option concept of playing Warhammer. Then lastly, let's look at this one which I call threat overload. Now this is a super, super high risk, but it's also a very, very high reward style of play. Now, I don't like taking this option, but when it's time to take this option, you better believe I'm going to take this freaking option. So here I've demonstrated, I've got like some Blood Angels that are playing against some Imperial Knights, and Imperial Knights are notorious because they have super high OC. Now their super heavy walkers get to walk through walls so they can stage super, super well. They've got devastating shooting, but they don't actually have that many activations. So here's the idea behind threat overload. If I just put, say, one squad, I don't know, you can't see my mouse, but let's say the big Van Vet brick, which is in front of the Warden and the 2 Armigers there, down on the bottom of the screen, bottom left of the screen. Let's say if I only put them, and let's say I fail the charge somehow, or let's say I whiff the charge and I don't even kill the unit, I'm going to lose a 300-point unit in my army, guaranteed. And it's not going to be useful, because even if I do kill that one Armiger, I'm going to pick up, 150 points of their army, but then they're going to immediately kill 300 points of my army. It's just not a good trade. So I don't give them one unit. If you give one unit and it doesn't perform perfectly, you're going to lose it, and it's not going to ever reward you. However, if I expose 2 very tough targets, now we're talking. So let's say, ignore the Death Company that are in the bottom right of the screen. So let's say I have this one big squad of Jump Assault Intercessors that it's towards the middle objective, and then we have the Van Vets that's in front of the Warden and the 2 Knights, and then the 2 Baby Knights. So here, now I've got these 2 units. Let's say one of them whiffs the charge, but the other one is able to get in, kill its target, consolidate, and tag some things. Now we're talking about something that's a little bit annoying for opponent, more annoying for opponent to deal with. Now they're going to have to split fire a little bit, but they're still in all reality going to be able to properly critically injure both units and effectively neuter me. So even exposing just 2 tough targets doesn't really work. But now let's go into another one. So here what I've done is I've exposed 4 targets. So I've got some Death Company Marines in the backfield that's going to have like a 9-inch rerollable into the Warden. I've got a Death Company Dreadnought down at the bottom. I don't know if you can really see him. He's below the Van Vets and to the left of the armored containers. And he has a 9-inch charge, +2 against the monsters and vehicles. So it's effectively a 7-inch charge out of Star Reserve. The Van Vets are going to have like a 2-inch charge. And then the JPI that are in the middle are going to have like, I don't know, 3 or 4-inch charge into the middle. So now what I've done is, even if I do, which I won't, but even if I do with every single charge here, what's going to happen is my opponent is going to really, really struggle to actually handle me, because he is going to be able to, if he focus fires, pick up 1 unit. If he gets super, super lucky, pick up 2 units. But that still gives me a lot of clapback with the other units. He's not going to be able to really, really give attention. Now, remember, this is only a strategy that I would do if I have nowhere to hide, if I have nowhere to really strategically put up, like I did in the previous examples of the hiding strategy. So this is only something I do when I don't have that option, okay? But here, now let's say I land 2 of these charges and 2 of them fail. Well, now I'm going to cause devastating damage. So if the Death Company hits the Warden, they're going to kill the Warden, and they're going to tag 2 Baby Knights. If the Van Vets go, they're going to pick up probably 2 Baby Knights, and then they'll tag the Warden. If the JPI go, they're going to easily pick up that Baby Knight in the middle, and they probably won't tag Canis, because you just don't want to do that. If my Death Company Dread gets in, he's going to kill probably both of these little armigers, allowing the others to pile into the Warden, which is going to be devastating damage. At that point, my opponent is only really going to have Canis Rex and maybe the 2 Helverins, and that is not going to be enough damage for him to be able to punch his way out of this. So this is what the concept of threat overload. You give your opponent too many targets. It is risky because some armies can just deal with it. So let's say we're playing Tau with Breacher Spam. They could deal with it. I would never try threat overload against them. So you really have to be careful about the army that you choose threat overload against. But these are 3 concepts of Warhammer 40,000 that are really going to up your game if you know when to apply them. So threat overload is really going to be applicable when you don't have the option of, like, say, trading 1 for 1, or if you don't have the option of hiding your army and charging everything all in at one fell swoop. Then you're going to really, really want, and you're certainly not going to want to perform threat overload against armies that can handle your stat check. When we're talking about, like, say, Tau Breacher Spam, or a lot of times you're like your Thousand Suns, you don't want to try it against them. Then, we have the concept of hiding. Hiding is awesome. Let me just go back here for a second. Hiding is fantastic when you have the terrain that can allow you to stage, and it can allow you to play the peekaboo game. So you can't look at me at all until I will just sweep through you in one fell swoop, and it doesn't matter because you're not going to have enough left over to punch me back. That is a great strategy. It's my favorite way to personally play. And then you have the trading strategy. Trading strategy works for a lot of people. A lot of people go, "Ooh, can I trade my 150-point unit to kill your 300-point blob?" Then I'm going to do it. Now, I really don't like that concept, but it does absolutely work. I trade in terms of stopping you from playing the game. So, for example, I will always trade a 65-point unit of scouts to just guarantee 800 points of your army can't move that turn. No problem with that. So these are the 3 main concepts of how to actually play and score in 40K. And I mean, I'm sure I could come up with others in different conceptual scenarios. But for right now, I want you to really think about these 3 concepts and apply them to your individual games. Are you better off trading 1 for 1 or trying to trade up? That's going to work really well for you if you're an MSU army. Are you really looking at, say, not trading, but just doing a 1 fell swoop approach? That's going to work great for your ambushy type armies. Things like your Blood Angels, things like your World Eaters, stuff like that. And then you've finally got the threat overload. Threat overload is typically a way to charge gun lines, but only remember when it's a gun line that can't pick your entire army up in one go. So you have to be really careful. And that could be because there's terrain that's blocking line of sight. That could be because you have one annoying model that's stopping 2 tanks from, like, shooting. There's lots of reasons why you would be able to charge a gun line. But that's really, really where threat overload super comes in handy. So those are the 3 big concepts. Let me know if you like the video. Share it with friends, and we'll catch you next time on Happy Crump and Wargaming. Cheers, all.